In 1881, at the age of 23, Eliezer Perlman sets out for Palestine on a seemingly impossible mission to make Hebrew the common tongue of a Jewish nation reborn in its ancient land. Hebrew had not been a spoken language for some 1,500 years. Even Herzl, the father of modern Zionism, thought it was impossible to revive. He wrote in 1896,
"We cannot converse with one another in Hebrew. Who amongst us has a sufficient acquaintance with Hebrew to ask for a railway ticket in that language? Such a thing cannot be done."
Eliezer Perlman thought otherwise. Born into a small Lithuanian town of the Russian Empire, Eliezer is exposed to Enlightenment ideas. He reads about independence movements in Europe and about early Jewish nationalist efforts. Eliezer has an epiphany.
It flashed before my eyes like lightning. I heard a strange voice calling within me. The resurrection of Israel and its language in the land of our fathers.
In Paris, where he has gone to study medicine, Eliezer is troubled by a persistent cough. He writes to his future wife, Deborah.
I must inform you that I have seen Dr. Neder. He says I have tuberculosis, that my lungs are badly affected, and has ordered me to stop my studies immediately.
But the news only increases Eliezer's determination.
I have the feeling of a person condemned to death. For this reason, I work without sleep, to put onto paper the reasons it is so important for the Jewish world to become inflamed with the idea of returning to the land of our forefathers.
In 1879, his first article expressing his ideas is published in the Viennese Hebrew monthly, HaShachar. It is titled A Burning Question. He signs it Ben-Yehuda, son of Judea. To carry out his plan, Ben-Yehuda emigrates to Israel, then under the rule of the Ottoman Turks. Deborah accompanies him. They are greeted everywhere by squalor and wretchedness. Deborah admitted later,
"If that day a thought could have transported me back to Europe, I would have vanished in a flash."
The Jews speak Yiddish, Ladino, and many other languages. Ben-Yehuda laments,
We Jews speak 70 different languages, yet not one of us speaks our own language. Today, the languages of the ghetto cling to us like leprosy.
Eliezer is offered work as a Hebrew teacher in a French language school. He adopts an immersion method of language instruction, teaching Hebrew in Hebrew. Nowhere does he take this immersive method to such extremes as with his firstborn son. He tells his wife,
Deborah, you are going to be the first Hebrew mother in nearly 2,000 years. Our child will be the first infant in all these centuries. He will come into the world hearing nothing but the beauty of our own ancient language.
Ben-Yehuda would say,
We feared the walls of our house. We feared the air in our room, lest the boy hear a foreign language.
The child did not speak until the age of 4, causing friends to fear Ben-Yehuda's fanaticism about language was making the child mute. But by 5, the child speaks beautiful Hebrew. Ben-Yehuda also starts a Hebrew newspaper, Hatzvi, or The Deer, in which each week he introduces new words. Soon he embarks on his greatest project, a complete dictionary of ancient and modern Hebrew. It will eventually comprise 17 volumes, 6 of which Ben-Yehuda completes in his lifetime. Eliezer works on his dictionary in a haphazard fashion. Words are scattered everywhere. Once Eliezer even loses a word, one on which he had worked for months. Ben-Yehuda's dictionary is a scholarly work. The word ki, because, has 24 columns alone when the first volume of his dictionary comes out. He lists 335 ways to use the Hebrew word for no, and 210 for ken, or yes. If his notes are lost, months, perhaps years of research are lost with it. The lost word is eventually found. It had dropped into the cuff of his trouser leg. Ben-Yehuda makes many enemies. Traditional Jews of Jerusalem view as sacrilege the use of the holy language in everyday speech. Ben-Yehuda also criticizes the Chalukah system, by which religious Jews live on money donated from abroad. Tensions rise to the point where the Orthodox establishment twice declares a solemn cherem, or ban, first on his newspaper, then on Ben-Yehuda himself. If a Jew so much as entered Ben-Yehuda's home, he was to be punished. Ben-Yehuda suffers far worse blows. His wife Deborah catches tuberculosis from him. She dies in the spring of 1891 at the age of 37, leaving Eliezer with 5 young children. Within a year, a diphtheria epidemic takes the lives of 3 of them. At this low point in his life, Deborah's younger sister Paula comes to Jerusalem from Moscow to marry him. Taking the Hebrew name Hemda, she will bear Eliezer an additional 5 children and prove as valuable a helpmate as Deborah. Despite Ben-Yehuda's dedication, at the turn of the 20th century, little Hebrew is spoken in the land. This changes with the arrival of the second Aliyah, which brings a new breed of immigrants between 1904 and 1914. Many of these pioneers are as fanatical about Hebrew as Ben-Yehuda. The writer Y.H. Brenner says,
"As long as we live, the Hebrew word is our soul, and without it we have no life."
There are some who cling to Yiddish. Netta Harpaz, a second Aliyah pioneer, bursts out at a meeting.
"I have accepted with love all the tribulations of the land. I have broken myself in switching to hard physical labor in conditions of hunger. My malaria does not let up. Is all this so little to you that you seek to steal my language, in which I was born and raised, and to which I am connected by all the cords of my soul, and to make me mute in this land?"
Hebrew gathers steam. In 1905, the first Hebrew high school, the Herzliya Gymnasium, is founded, followed the next year by the Betzalel Academy of Arts, which adopts Hebrew as its language of study. The decisive moment comes in 1913 with the War of the Languages. The Ezra Foundation, which runs a number of German Jewish schools, decides to found a technical school in Haifa. It will be called the Technikum, with instruction in German, then the premier scientific language. Pro-Hebrew forces are outraged. Ben-Yehuda tells the director of the German-sponsored schools,
"You can send word to Berlin that blood will flow on the steps of the technical school in Haifa if this order is not changed at once."
Blood does not flow, but a well-orchestrated campaign of parades, demonstrations, and strikes follow. In the end, Hebrew is victorious. Ben-Yehuda dies in 1922 at the age of 64. The last word on which he is working is nefesh. It is the Hebrew word for soul.